My grandfather, Dana Michael Moss, has a story to tell for every occasion. From heartwarming and grounded to so outrageous it can't be anything but untrue. But he is still the most genuine man I know. He is my rock. Mike has been a resident of Memphis since he was very young. He finished his academic career in 1963 with a Bachelor of Science from the University of Tennessee at Martin and a Master's from the University of Tennessee following years later. After college, Mike worked in public schools as a teacher and coach. He played a part in many alumni roles with the University of Tennessee system, including the National Alumni Association president. He has volunteered in many church activities and is very active at Advent Presbyterian. He ran his first half marathon at 76 years old and raised $4,000 for St. Jude. Where my grandfather is my biggest inspiration is what my grandmother likes to say. He has a heart for the homeless. He organizes soup kitchens throughout the city and now focuses on helping homeless citizens obtain birth certificates, as well as teaching a class for an addiction recovery program. My grandfather has been a massive inspiration to me my whole life and very involved in my life as well. I've never seen my grandfather in a light that wasn't courageous and wanting to do things for others. As a person who loves to interview others and him, another person who loves to be interviewed, I thought an interview with someone so important to me would be the perfect way to celebrate him. I sat down with him on a late afternoon recently to ask him what was one of the most impactful days of his life. He said, on September 11th, 2001, I realized how we could not take the two oceans as protectors from outside dangers. This line was captivating, but there was a moment of silence that entered the room as he said it. We took a pause, and he continued with a little backstory. Mike was teaching American government at Bartlett High School at the time, and he was waiting for his next class period to enter for yet another 60 minutes of teaching about history. Little did he know, at 8:46 a.m., this day would become devastating history. Mike shared that a student came into his room only a few minutes later to tell him a plane hit the Twin Towers in New York City. He exclaimed, "My first thought was only a small plane that hit one of the Twin Towers is unfortunate but not catastrophic." He then told me that he and his students discovered the destruction and havoc from the two plane crashes later in the same class period. The remaining portion of his day, he watched news pour in with shock all around his classroom. Mike then shared with me, as an American government teacher, this would have been an excellent teaching moment, but with information changing so rapidly, everyone was at a loss to make any sense of it. Mike sighed for a moment, and silence entered the room again, because you could feel the sense of fear in his words in the past few sentences. As the continental United States had never been attacked, Mike said, I think there was a general feeling, particularly with the world wars that were fought over there, and not on our shores. Mike also shared with me how his home in Memphis was located on the glide path for FedEx planes, and how many nights he and my grandmother, Carolyn Moss, would sit on the patio and watch the planes make their approach. He told me that the silence in the air from the grounded air traffic was an airy feeling for the two of them as they sat on the patio for the following nights. My grandfather always has a story to tell, and there's nothing like sitting down on a visit with him and hearing the stories of his past. A man with many words can also brighten a room with the story, but I found this story to be grounding, learning that he lives in fear as I do too, as the rest of the world does as well. The story Mike shared with me that day, one that I did not experience, is a moment that I feared for the world we lived in, but also take comfort in knowing that there are people who educate us on that history, like my grandfather, as it is so important in his eyes and mine to educate the world honestly on the horrors and the growth we as a community experience daily. Thank you, and now I want to share some photos of my grandfather working as volunteering around Memphis and in some local British islands like Anegada. Thank you. This photo was taken at the church where they were boxing lunch bags for homeless. This photo is giving blood. This is my grandfather's first half marathon that he ran with St. Jude. This is them painting houses in Anegada. This is the soup kitchen that they work at every Sunday. This is also the soup kitchen in their group with the church. This is again painting houses in Anegada. This is my grandfather being interviewed. And this is his final race with St. Jude. And then finally, this is me and my grandfather and my grandmother. I'd like to finish this speech with sharing how you can volunteer at the soup kitchen as well. My grandfather works in the birth certificate center at First Presbyterian on the first Sunday of every month. But you can also work in the soup kitchen, organizing and preparing the buffet lunch, or the clothes closet as well. The clothes closet is where you donate clothes and then women and men can come in and pick out a few items. This happens about once a weekend every month. It's personally my favorite.